Welcome, everybody. Happy Friday. Happy homecoming week. Woo! Go Bulls, right? All right. Good morning. My name is Victoria Desso, and I am a student at the University of South Florida. I would like to welcome everyone to the Women in Leadership and Philanthropy 2015 Symposium, and thank you for joining us for Going Beyond Your Dreams, Women Leading the USF System. I am honored to be... I am honored to be able to introduce our moderator, Ms. Rhea Law. But before I do, I would like to tell you just a little bit about my experience as a USF WLP scholarship recipient. I'm a first-year student in both the Honors College and the Provost Scholars Program, which, if you guys are not aware of, it's an accelerated 3-year program for students to achieve their bachelor's. I am currently majoring in sociology, and I am interested in pre-law courses. At USF, I am involved in the Honors College Social Committee, the Pre-Law Society, Mock Trial Club, and of course, this wonderful group of women that are here today. In the near future, I hope to become a green and gold guide as well as an ambassador. After graduating, I plan on attending law school and earning my Juris Doctorate. I intend on practicing criminal law as a prosecutor and then hopefully getting into politics. My all-time goal is to be the youngest congresswoman at the mere age of 25. I chose USF due to the opportunities that only this university provided me, such as the Provost Scholars Program, and I am definitely proud to call myself a bull. Woo! Thanks to Women in Leadership and Philanthropy, I hope to achieve my goals here at USF and beyond with their help and sense of community. Now, without further ado, please allow me to introduce our moderator, Rhea Law. Rhea serves as the chair of Buchanan, Ingersoll, and Rooney's Florida offices and a member of the board of directors. She focuses her practice in the areas of government, environmental law, and land use. Rhea is a past member and first female chair of the USF Board of Trustees, is an active member of USF Women in Leadership and Philanthropy, and we are thrilled to have her serving as our moderator today. Please join me in welcoming Rhea Law to the stage.
Isn't she great? She's going to make a great attorney, don't you think? I told her, I said, you come talk to me, all right? Well, first of all, let me just say that you're going to ask me about these, and that's just a little boo-boo that supposedly women have 20% or 20 times more chance of getting than men do. So this is one of the bad things that might happen to you, and right now Advil is my friend. However, this kind of looks like part of a boxing glove, doesn't it? So it's my power, go Bulls. And speaking about power, we have a power panel here of bulls. You know, when we look at the University of South Florida, it is in fact a university that is open, that wants people to be successful, and I am so delighted that women are very, very successful here. You have the head of the whole university system, and you have the regional chancellors of both St. Petersburg and Sarasota Manatee. So let me tell you a little bit about them, although their information is in your paperwork. I just want to give you a little taste and get right to the questions because they have some cool things to share with you. So first of all, Judy Genshaft, as you know, is our president since the year 2000, and I was delighted to be on the selection committee for her. She stood out in every way. And she was just so energetic and enthusiastic, and she has continued to be that way all these many years. Under her leadership, the university certainly is one of the fastest growing research universities, the 9th largest, and also in the top 50 research universities, which is very near and dear to my heart. Let's give a round of applause for Judy. And Dr. Sandra Stone, on the other end, is the regional chancellor for Sarasota Manatee, and she's brand new with us. She just came on in November last year. She came to us from Dalton State College in Georgia, and her focus is on strategic planning, faculty and program initiatives, accreditations, change initiatives. Boy, change is what it's all about, isn't it? and other developmental fields. And we're delighted to have you here, so thank you, Dr. Stone. And in the middle is Dr. Sophia Wisniewski. I knew I'd mess that up. I knew it. I had it all right. Wisniewski. Yes?
Good. You say it.
Sophia.
So the correct way is Wisniewska. The American version is Wisniewska.
Okay.
Okay, forgive me. And she's in the middle because she's the middle here. She's been with us since 2013, and she's the regional chancellor, as I said, of USF St. Petersburg. She led the institution in the Vision 2020 initiative, and she also was one of the procuring causes of the Kate Tiedemann College of Business $10 million gift, which is the largest gift that USF St. Petersburg has ever gotten. So let's give her a round of applause. All right, with that in mind, let's get right to it. I think you probably want to know, how did these people get here in the first place? And so I would ask each of them, how did you begin your career, and what was your dream job as a kid, and why? Judy, you want to start?
Thank you. And let me give you a brief instruction. Do any of you know sign language? Okay, I'm going to teach you something in sign, and that is, this is for boring. And if any of you find that you're getting bored, we three are going to watch, and if you do this, we'll step it up. Okay? All right, that's the first thing. No boring. Nobody's bored. Okay.
We didn't have a chance of that.
We didn't have a chance at that. You know what? Growing up, I'm not sure that I can tell you that I had everything planned out quite exactly what I was going to be doing. Just kind of going along my merry way. It was probably more in the high school and college where I started getting focused. And I always was active in leadership positions with the high school groups and that kind of thing. But I really and very honestly did not have a goal in mind that I remember growing up. Maybe you did.
So, not at first. I'm going to take you right back to the womb on my story. So, I was born and raised in Poland. That's the difficult name. We came to this country at age 10, when I was 10. And when I was growing up, I grew up on a farm. We picked fruit. There was no conversation about career. But I did secretly hope to be an epic violinist. I wanted to be the Polish version of Lindsey Sterling. I'm just putting it out there. And so, but then after we came to this country, I promptly put the violin away and started hitting the books. And I was always interested in school. I heard from my mother, who strongly believed that in this country, education was the great equalizer. And so she would clearly set the rules for us, say, there is no inheritance coming. Whatever you put you in your little head is going to carry you through life. So learn, and learn a lot and often. And so I became a perennial student. I've never left the college campus. I spent my whole life in higher education, working for various universities, first Penn State, then Temple, taught at Bryn Mawr College, then USF. And I just find the college environment to be one of the best, because you're around smart people, aspiring students. It's just a really, really healthy atmosphere. And so I feel very fortunate that, quite frankly, I stumbled upon it. I didn't plan to build a career in higher education, but through a series of circumstances, happy circumstances, it worked out that way.
Okay, well, I certainly never imagined myself here. So, and have had a very circuitous route to get here. I also grew up on a farm. My early life was spent on a farm in Appalachia in rural Tennessee, and there weren't a lot of opportunities for women to do anything except work on the farm. Although they did have a teacher shortage, and my mother My mother had graduated from high school, so at that point, a long, long time ago, they allowed women who had graduated from high school to teach lower elementary when they really needed some help. So my mom taught in this little mountain school for a while and taught me to read when I was 3. And so I was always a really early reader. And I remember then all I knew that women did besides work on the farm was teach school. So I remember lining up all my dolls and my stuffed animals in little rows and pretending like we were having school. So that was kind of my early start. But then sort of shifted gears in high school. My mom worked in a children's hospital in Atlanta. And the summer between my freshman and sophomore years, I was a candy striper there at the children's hospital. And there were 3 of us who really, really wanted to stay on after summer. So the administrator made a new job category for us called junior nursing assistant, and he let us stay and actually paid us and gave us a job. So I worked there the rest of high school and into my first year in college. And besides the job, I really didn't do a lot of healthcare because we were really young. But what we did get to do was work a lot with the social workers in the hospital, and I really became very fascinated by the work these women were doing. And that kind of coupled with a sociology class that I had my senior year, I decided then I would go into social work. So my career started out in social work, and then I kind of switched gears at one point and decided to go back to grad school and got more into the research side. So I did a whole long stint as a researcher with several large federal grant projects, and that kind of led me into a state job with the Department of Juvenile Justice in Georgia, and then several things happened there. We can maybe talk about that later on, but I had an opportunity then to go to the university system. So I actually went to the University System of Georgia in 1996, and so I've kind of had 3 careers, one in social work, one as kind of a research person, and one in higher ed, and have loved all 3.
Wow, so this is kind of an evolution, and education is very important in that. I guess the next question would be, what was the turning point? What caused you to move into the University of South Florida, and what's the secret sauce here? What's
It's
special
secret.
about? Well, okay, I'll do a confidentiality agreement. Y'all sign it, and they'll tell us what. Yeah, what's the secret sauce? Why is USF special? Why do we have so many women in leadership here, and why are we so successful? What is that all about? Anybody? You should know.
Yeah, well, you know, all 3 of us, as you didn't hear as much, but all 3 of us are really, really hard workers. Day and night, we will work for our organizations, and so that really is very important. And we all grew up with a work ethic that's amazing. So that plus the credentials. Nobody gets by with saying, "Oh, I'm cute," or "I'm smart," or "I'm whatever." You have to have the credentials to enter the field and to really have the experience behind you that can show the leadership that you bring to the table. So I think that is one of the key elements, that we have really, really smart women around us. And a lot of them are right here in the audience.
Super. Sandra?
Well, I guess a couple of turning points when I made those twists. One was as a social worker. My last social work job, I was a director of children's programming at the Battered Women's Shelter in Atlanta. And we had an opportunity to get a grant from the National Center on Child Abuse and Neglect to study children that were coming into the shelters with the shelter with their mothers. And we had quite a bit of money then, and so we were able to do like comprehensive physicals and psychologicals and really try to understand what was going on with these children. And I really became very fascinated with the research component of this and realized very acutely that I didn't have the research skills to do this work at the level that it really needed to be done. So that turning point for me was just acknowledgement that I needed some additional credentials. I needed some skills. So I went back to graduate school and did my doctoral work. And then I think the second thing was working in the state Department of Juvenile Justice, kind of coming to a real crossroads about what felt right for me. And when I started there, the department was on a trajectory to be more rehabilitative and to push kids out of long-term facilities and put them back in the communities and do more real prevention, family-oriented work. And there was a change in governor, a change in commissioner, a change in philosophy, and it was a total 180 to lock them up and throw away the key, and it just didn't feel like a place I really could be, which came at the same time our kids got in middle school and needed somebody to take them from point A to point B to point C, and somebody needed to free up some time. So working in higher ed was a lot more flexible, so that worked out really nicely for me. And then from there on, it was just really a lot of people giving me a lot of wonderful opportunities, including Dr. Ginshaft, opening up the opportunity for me to come here, which has just been a terrific experience. So.
Sophia?
Sure. So when I graduated from college, I was a liberal arts major. Just goes to show you, liberal arts majors go far. Let's not discount them. However, I did major in Russian language and literature. The Sputnik era was over. There were no jobs. And so I went back to my alma mater, Penn State, and I had a really great negotiating pitch for them. If you don't give me a job, I will not pay back this loan. And they actually thought that was good logic. And so I took what was available at that time, a job as a secretary, as we called them back then, because I had bills to pay as an adult. And very quickly, a gentleman who had been there for 26 years retired. And I said, give me the job, I can do it. I have the degree. And so they gave me an opportunity, and I kind of built my way in a Penn State system, actually working at 5 different campuses. There was a turning point in my career. Penn State has something akin to the ACE Fellowship. They select 3 women every year who are supposed to go places. And I was one of those women who was invited to apply for that fellowship. And I moved from Philadelphia to State College to spend a year with one of the senior university leaders. And that really did change my career and my life professionally, because I went to meetings I would have never been invited to. I knew about processes and decisions behind the scenes. And further, most of the fellows, at least under the mentor I had, have made significant career improvements. It wasn't just a Cinderella year. He really made sure that there were opportunities for his fellows after that 1-year experience. So that was a significant turning point for me. And I continued working for Temple and progressing that way. And for USF, if you had told me 4 years ago that I was going to live and work in Florida, I would have said, you're crazy. Florida wasn't on my radar, and I've never been to St. Pete, but I saw this position, and a friend of mine and I always coached each other along the way. She said, I'm going to nominate you for this. And when I saw the position description, I felt like it had my DNA. And then I visited St. Pete, and I loved it. And I visited the campus, loved that even more. And it just seemed like that was the right decision to make. And so it was the only job I had applied for in 8 years. And here I am.
One of the things that's really important when you're looking at a position is to feel that it's a good fit, not only for you at the organization, but also the organization kind of senses that it's a good fit as well. And I think that's really a key to being able to weather very difficult challenges that you have throughout the time that you're in that role in that organization. And you always hit, the first year, you're always hitting things that you never would have expected. And with that kind of good fit, and some of it's a feeling, some of it's, I don't know, it just, I knew when I was interviewing both of these fabulous women that they would be the right fit for each of the communities that they're working in, and as a part of the USF system. There was something about their energy, the kind of commitment they have to the region, and working as a system. They both had experience in that. It just seemed like the right fit, and we're really pleased that it was. One of the turning points that I had was after a couple of them. One was I was working in a mental health agency as a psychiatric social worker, first year out of undergraduate school from Wisconsin. And my supervisor was not very smart and, kept giving me orders. And I thought, well, how'd she get that role? And it turned out she got that role because she had a master's degree and I didn't. So I went back to school as I was working. I was working, going to school at the same time, got my master's degree, and then moved on. And I thought, you've really got to keep moving yourself up to make a difference. So when I started my professorship, my assistant professorship at Ohio State University, that first year, and some of you have heard this before, I went to the only female vice president at Ohio State University and essentially talked to her for a while and said, how do I get moving to where you are? And she gave me great advice. And she was, and you can really see this advice in all of the agencies or the corporations that you're working in too. She said, don't do anything without getting your full professor status. So it'd be, don't do anything that doesn't promote you further. And watch the committees that you're on, that you don't get involved in so many committees that it takes you off to the side and you don't get the primary work done toward the agency or the organization that you're working for. And I've really always followed that advice, and to this day I still do. When I'm in a new association that I'm not familiar with, I always say, they'll want to put me on whatever committee, and I call the executive director and I say, what are the key committees in this organization? And usually the key committees in most of the national organizations or the statewide organizations are what? What's a key committee? The finance committee is always a key committee. Strategic planning, you're always going to be with the leaders there. And mission, something like that, where you are networking with the lead people in that organization rather than go sideways. And I just always think that's for me, it's been a good, successful way of going through the pathways.
Okay, so our secret sauce is be a hard worker, education, get your credentials, get a mentor that knows what they're doing, build your networks, be nimble, and take advantage of those opportunities. Did I get it all?
I think so.
All right, all right.
Very good.
That's those legal skill things.
That's it.
Okay, so that's kind of a nice segue. So what do you consider to be your finest leadership job, and what made it so? What was important to you?
USF. USF. Yay, USF. It really is. I have such a passion for this university and the community. Tampa Bay is the best community ever. It's just really wonderful, warm, welcoming, accepting. Women have been in leadership positions, whether it be Pam Iorio as the mayor, or even before her, or Rhea, head of her law firm, some of you around. I mean, this is such a nice community, and the university is what I was looking for. It was a major research university that brings discovery and innovation and energy. So I think this is the best.
Okay, well, that's kind of a clue what you're supposed to say.
Ditto. I'm gonna leave and come back in a green suit. Give me a minute.
Okay.
But truly, I thought about this question even before you asked it, and I've loved working. I just feel really fortunate that I ended up on a college campus working for people who are committed, smart, fun to be around with. So I've had probably a total of 20 bad days in my working career. And I usually leave on one of those if it's really bad. But anyway, so whenever I'm in a job, I feel like that's the best job in the world. My first job at Penn State, I loved because I was a low-level director, and we hired a lot of returning women from the workforce. Everyone assumed leadership positions. We did it by consensus, celebrated every little thing we did. I thought, doesn't get any better than that. And for some of us, we still think it hasn't. But, and then, when I was at Penn State, when I was at University Park after that fellowship, we're building new academic colleges at all the campuses. And so I had an opportunity to be on a ground floor of creating promotion and tenure processes and developing new curricula. It was just really exciting. And I thought that opportunity was really positioned me for so many things. When I went to Temple University, I was at a suburban campus, and as you know, Temple has 2 campuses. The campus at which I was the first horticultural school for women. So it had this green theme, and we're trying to build the identity of the school. We kind of said, okay, we're the green campus, and build programming around the environmental issues, the Center for Sustainable Communities with federally funded dollars, curricula and community regional planning. We changed the mission from undergraduate to graduate, created it as a college. By the time the new president figured out that I was running away with these things, he went, who is that crazy woman? Let's slow her down a little bit. So that was great. And then at USF, it's like no other place. I mean, Florida's wonderful. Let's face it. I come from 3 winters in Philadelphia. But in addition to that, what I find so special about the USF position is I've never worked at an institution where the relationship between the community and the campus was as strong as it is, where everyone in a community roots and pulls for one another. That to me is extraordinary. I quite frankly have been used more to folks in power positions holding the campus hostage and being very stingy with whether it's approvals for zoning or whatever it may be. So and the feel of the campus is small, feels like a small private college. It's beautiful. It's part of a really large system, so it has the name recognition and excitement of a world-class university. At the same time, it's kind of laid back once you cross the bay. So it's kind of, not to use an old cliche, the best of both worlds. And so I'm having a lot of fun.
Super. Sandra.
Well, I think that there are some common things that run through all of the leadership roles that I've had that make them really, like make me feel like I've been able to make a difference. And I think while it looks like my whole career path is kind of zigzaggy, in some sense it all comes together. And I think what I like about being in positions of leadership are the abilities to work with people and get people all on the same page and build consensus for change, and then to take that forward and actually have an effect on policy and on larger systems that can affect a large number of people. So I think, probably the 2 that stand out the most for me, I had an opportunity to work for a couple of years in the Board of Regents office at the University System of Georgia. And doing exactly that, was able to bring together people from 35 different campuses that ranged from the flagship university to Georgia Tech to 2-year schools, to come together to consensus on policy that would be system-wide policy, and then to be a voice for that system, working with legislators and others and regulators, and being able to really affect policy change that made a difference. And I find that with this position, I love this position because I'm able to work across the whole university and bring together all the pieces from student services and academic affairs and facilities and finance and the community piece and all of it, to bring it together and then be the voice for the university going forward to affect change. And so I think that those elements for me make leadership positions really exciting. And this is really, it is wonderful to be part of a bigger system, and then you have a bigger reach there when you can affect change and make things happen for good.
You know, that's true. We've got almost 49,000 students, so just think about the reach of that. All right, we have like 3 minutes left, and so I want to ask each of you to tell me what you think the most significant barrier is to women in leadership now and in the future, and just kind of say what it is, because then we're going to go into question and answer, and you all can elicit more information. So, Judy.
I'm going to let you start.
Okay.
I've
See,
got-
she's taking a leadership position.
Delegate.
Moving it
Delegate.
right on down the line.
I've got my ideas.
So I think there are a number. I think some people and places are not ready for women. Certainly, I think if we look at a political situation, that's a really good example. Sometimes women don't have access to the insider information that men have, or to the culture, which often is as much out of the workplace as it is in a workplace. And I think women are wired differently. I think we still, most of us who know better, operate under the notion that if you just work your heart out, somebody's going to tap you on the shoulder and reward you. Women don't do a good job asking for raises, asking for promotion, or even jumping into positions for which they may not be quite ready. The guys, they think, I'll figure it out when I get there. And so I think...
Sir, we're not talking about you.
So those are just a few of the barriers that I've observed.
Good point.
I think a lot of similar kind of thoughts. I think there still is, not intentionally always, but and mostly not intentionally, but there is some very deeply ingrained institutional sexism that still pervades our society across major institutions. And so I think there is a lot of bias and lack of opportunities for women. But then also when women do have opportunities, some of the things that Sophia was saying, I think that women tend to be a lot more risk averse and less willing to just put themselves out there and take risks. I think that women have this sense that I'm never prepared enough. I don't have enough credentials. I don't have enough experience, and I can't apply for that because they would never consider me. And guys are just like, even when they don't have any of the qualifications on the job thing, they go ahead and apply anyway. I think one of the things that has been very difficult for me and sad for me in a lot of ways is I think as women have moved into leadership positions, often we don't help each other. Yeah. And I think that's held a lot of us back. I think we have to help each other.
And that's what we're doing right here. Judy, did you want to?
Yes, I wanted to talk about two aspects of this. One is to have, as was previously mentioned, have the confidence and have that kind of security about moving forward and taking that risk to go forward. You also have to look at the different cultures that the organization has. I mean, we have a very diverse culture at the University of South Florida, where there are many, many international people, and some of the cultures do not recognize women. And for example, we had some Middle Eastern students that would not go to class because the class was taught by a woman. And so we have to look at all that. We're very, very fortunate to be in the United States, where women are making a difference and we are moving forward. And these are the kinds of seminars and workshops that are so, so, so important. The one thing is again, having the confidence, knowing kind of the networking, working the system. It's hard to go against the culture, but working the system so that you maneuver your way through and show yourself respectfully that, you know, I can stand shoulder to shoulder to the male counterpart, and with that, you know, you better choose me. You know. But you have to watch the culture. The other different part of this, and this is something new for all of us across the United States in higher ed, we are having trouble with men graduating. Men graduate at about a 10-point less than women. And now I have, and many of the presidents have set up a status of men committee, because what we're finding are that the guys are dropping out, not graduating, not writing an essay to get a scholarship. And you look at the scholarship the recipients that are open to both men and women, and you're not seeing men. So we're in a very good position as women to move forward. We just have to keep that mid-level, the mid-level of your career. You need to not stop. You need to keep going. Look at the top and how did they get there? Can you see their resume? What pathway did they do to get there? And that's really, really important. Women do not give up. And that's another key, I'd say, asset that we have. So watch your pathway. Look at the top. Get some resumes or whatever. How did they get there? And then just move that direction.
Super, thank you. All good advice and things for us to look for. It's now your turn. Please use the microphone because we are recording this, and even though you might be able to speak loudly, the recording won't hear you. Right back there.
Thank you. I have a question and a comment. My comment is that I recently was able to attend the Commercial Real Estate Women National Convention and hear Madeleine Albright speak. And one of her comments was, there is a special place in heaven for women who help other women and a special place in hell for those who don't. And it really resounded with us. It just so happened at the time that we were at that convention, the Wall Street Journal article, the big section on women in the workplace came out. And one of the things that got talked about a lot, there was 1,200 very high level commercial real estate women there, was that it's going to take 100 years to get parity in the boardroom. And we all kind of said, we don't want to wait 100 years. I'm not sure I believe it's going to take 100 years, but it is well off from where it should be. What advice can you give us so that we can reach that much, much sooner than 100 years?
So I'll jump into that one only because it's near and dear to my heart. When I was in Philadelphia, I was a member in an organization called the Forum of Executive Women, dedicated to putting women into leadership position and on boards. And for about 5 years, our main purpose was to put women on paid boards, not nonprofit paid. We kind of threw in the towel because we weren't making progress and kind of went on to a different project. But I think one of the best ways is to, as Judy said, when you look at a resume of a person in leadership and you want to follow them, same I think is women on boards, to look for the qualification that put a woman on a paid board, to rally around her. And then what is often said is that unless you have 3 women on that board, the voice is lost. So you kind of very strategically have to start with one. She has to promise to get the second one, then the third one, and you have to build a little bit of a collective presence at the board level. But if you look at national corporations and look at their boards, I think it's fewer than 10% have women. I mean, it's dismal. And I don't know that there's a solution. Lots of folks are working really hard at changing that picture, but it's really, really slow.
Well, and it takes the content. Everything is about relationships. So it takes the, say, the CEO or one of the people on the board to be your advocate and recommend that woman be on the board as well.
I think a lot, for getting women further is really, being very open to opportunities and taking risks. I think it's really hard for women to take risks sometimes, and sometimes you just have to put yourself out there and hope it's going to be okay, and that you may not have a safety net, but that's scary. But I think that, and sometimes I think you just have to create your own opportunities. And I think just as Dr. Ginshaft was saying, just try to find those ways. What is that extra piece that I might need that would get me another notch up? And it might be a certain kind of experience, or it might be another credential of some sort, or it might be aligning yourself with a mentor in that position already, and asking for some guidance there. But sometimes you just have to kind of make it happen for yourself. You can't always depend on somebody else to make it happen for you.
It is all about focus. If that's what you want, then you start looking around to see who can help you get there and reach out and touch them. Did we have another question here? Yes. Sure. Yes. Microphone's coming.
And what's your name is all?
Wait.
My name is Lynn Gray, and I work with previously all men, taught at Jesuit, taught men, was at track, ran with men. But I had to realize when I was kicked off the track, because I was a woman, and I worked with MacDill Air Force, and I was probably the only woman. There was many, many times when I was the only one. But I want to resonate with what you all said about don't give up.
Mm-hmm.
The men are not used to tenacious women. They will think you will go away. And I think now, as I am trying out a new career, which you all inspire me to take those chances, the support is out there. I go to Facebook, worry about that in itself, but all of a sudden, women are really out there saying, go, Lynn, go, and all those kinds of things. It's changing now with social media, but out of all the things I've just heard, never, ever give up.
Mm-hmm.
Stay with the plan, and you will, by perseverance and tenaciousness, you will succeed.
That was my favorite book, The Little Engine That Could. I think I can. I think I can. And I think that is what you said is so important, because, we always run into biases, and so I'm very goal oriented, and we have a huge project that we're working on right now, and I could tell that the barrier was I'd say it was a prejudice against women, but the person doesn't know or doesn't believe it, whatever. So with that goal, what I did was work with my counterparts that were men in order to get the goal accomplished. And then at the end, if the goal, and we still have a few more weeks before we get the final vote, but if that goal is accomplished, you can wrap it up under your accomplishments.
Nice.
And you can.
Nice.
And it brings you to the next level.
Let me just mention one thing before your question, and that is I chair the diversity committee with our law firm. And one of the things that we have found in recent research is that women are unconsciously biased against other women. You don't realize it, and there's actually a test you can take for that, and we're sending all of our lawyers through that test, because the best thing we can do for each other is to help each other. We want to be in that favored place in heaven as opposed to the other place.
That's a
And
great
we
comment.
really need to think about, do we harbor biases ourselves? And if so, we need to excise them. So,
my question would be, my name's Dr. Neela Jane. I'm chair of WLP. For three wonderful, accomplished women, what tips would you give to some of our young women how you balance your professional and personal lives?
I don't have any. I'm sorry.
I don't have any balance.
I don't have a life.
We're not really good at that.
There is no balance.
Yeah.
There. I think you tell. You're the panelist now because you have a very good. Yeah, I've heard you have a very good explanation for this.
Yeah, I think that there's no such thing as balance. There is alignment. And if you can align yourself with the people around you, even though you're incredibly off balance, you will be able to move forward and be successful. And I do that with family and friends and let them know what we're trying to accomplish. And if they agree and they buy into it, you know, you're all tilted in the same direction and you can go far.
There's a really good book by Deborah Spar. She's the president of Barnard College, called Wonder Women. And if you haven't read it, it's a fun read. And I think it maybe resonates for people who are, you know, more my age. But she really talks about how, in many ways, many of us were sold a bill of goods, and that we could have it all, and that you can't have it all. But she does it in a very funny kind of way, and it's kind of like that, or it's like, you know, at different points in your life, different things take priority, and you kind of shift, and that it's a constant shifting around of, you know, what's important now, and you know, what do I need to focus on now, but that may not be the same thing next year. And but if you think that you're going to have balance, then, you know, you need to give that up.
We got a question back here.
I'm Jacqueline Darna. I'm the CEO and medical inventor of the No More Nausea Band and a proud USF alum. I first off want to just say I'm amazed with the advancements and stuff that you guys are doing in the community, as well as just I went back to go visit my interns because I've had interns now with my company for 3 semesters, most of them being women and international, because again, my company is now global for its medical distribution. But the one thing I really want to be an amazing leader for them, and I feel as though that I'm winging it sometimes. Is there any advice and or anything in the community, especially, that you can think about besides being an active WLP member, that would help me to be able to redefine and give them exactly what they're looking for? They do tell me that the company itself has raised them to new levels and heights, but I just want to make sure that I'm the best that I can be so that I can translate that down to them. Any help?
I think you got a good start.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You know, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Yeah, you have to find. Well, I'm not sure I know which goal you have. I'll let you start. I'll let you start.
So I think that being empathetic and listening, and obviously you're doing that, is really a good start. And I think maybe working with young women on recognizing some of the barriers that exist, particularly those that may be particular to women, and helping them have an easier path. But we've talked about what the barriers are. I mean, the reality is at executive leadership level, you're available all the time, everywhere. And so if you're trying to balance family and work, how do you make that happen? Similarly, I think the traditional male executive is singularly focused. I'm going to be a physician, and that's all there's to it. Not I'm going to be a physician, a really good dad, and a nice son. And so I think kind of recognizing the business culture and the differences between men and women, and then trying to help that path become achievable and easier is, I think, the best you can do.
I guess I was hearing something a little different, and you were looking also for your own professional development. How can you always? And I think that find somebody that you admire and that you'd like to work with as your mentor, and not that mentorship needs to be every day or whatever, but somebody that you look up to, and then that person will advise, oh, this is a really good thing you should get involved with. This is something that you. So mentorship really also is a good connector to others, and we help each other. When I was at Ohio State, and actually we started the Critical Difference Program for women. It's very much like this is. And we said to the president at the time, if you have this big campaign that's occurring, what are you doing for women? Except for if you want to give to women, the only thing you could give to was women's studies. And that may not be what you wanted to do. What about us making this new organization called Critical Difference for Women? This is the same thing as WLP. And the connectivity of all the women around the university from a variety of different colleges, we started working together and we say, okay, I really want this kind of a position. Would you be my reference? And, you always are looking to work together, but that's what the mentor can do. And it can be a male mentor as well. It's somebody that can say, you know what, you ought to get into this position or this one for committees.
I think also if, just to be a student of leadership yourself, kind of a lifelong student of leadership. And there are lots and lots of really good books, and there are good seminars and, short programs and academies and institutes and summer programs. And I think just to always continue to try to hone your own leadership skills, then you are doing what you're encouraging other people to do, and you always learn something new.
Done? I have time for one more? One more. Did you have a question right there?
Yeah. Hi, good morning. My name is Kate Sprain, and I'm an undergraduate at USF. And since I'm going into the workforce soon, I was wondering how to combat the general gender bias, and also what Ria was commenting on about the women-to-women competition bias.
Okay, we have 1 minute.
Which field?
Oh, we have 3 minutes, so one each. She wants to know.
Say that again.
Okay, the question here is how to combat the direct bias as well as the unconscious bias as you seek to enter into the workforce. Correct? Okay. Well, I tell you, be aggressive and go right at it, because I think Judy just said this a moment ago, but you have to show them that you are capable of doing what it is that they have the job for. So, for example, when I started practicing law, just the very first day, they said, do you know anything about chemistry? And I said, well, yeah, actually, I'm a chemistry major. And they said, do you know anything about phosphate companies? And I said, I do. Now, those phosphate companies are probably the most Neanderthal folks in the universe. And so I show up the very first day out on the site, and they didn't expect me. And what I did is I showed them I knew more about their business than they did. And all of a sudden, I was their best friend. So, you've got to show your capabilities. You've got to show that you are interested enough to learn about them and to be capable of being successful, and you can just run circles around them. That's my advice. Any additions?
So I think, competence goes a long way. Education means a lot. Do your homework, know as much as you can about any issue. People pay attention to good data, information that often overcomes lots of barriers, and never ever give up.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think to just find something that you feel like you offer that's a little bit unique, a little bit of an extra edge, whatever that can, that might be in whatever field you're looking at. But what makes you stand out? What makes you add value? And be convincing. Just go in there, don't be afraid to be assertive.
I just wanted to, I know we're going to be ending, but I just wanted to say, while we all are here giving advice, we're also all learning. And the other thing is always, always, always watch your back. Watch your own back. I never take it for granted that the position I'm in now, I will have tomorrow. You never, ever take anything for granted. You just work hard. You do what you believe is right. and you want to get to the next level, but you always have to watch the environment around you and make sure that you're just you just always have to. There are politics in every organization, always. So just never be too, arrogant about things.
Those are words of advice. Help me thank our panelists.
All right, thank you so much for this great presentation. On behalf of the USF Women in Leadership and Philanthropy, I would like to thank all of these wonderful women here for participating, and thank you for sharing with us. We're going to hand out some gifts right now.
Oh, wow. Presents.
Wow.
Presents. You? Oh, I know those blue boxes.
Yeah, I do.
Blue boxes. Wow.
Just pass them. Yeah, I got it. We hope you enjoyed today's session. Please give these women another round of applause. The doors for lunch are now open. Please make your